UR Bhat, Managing Director at Dalton Capital Advisors, is joining us on the show this morning. Mr. Bhat, thanks very much for taking out the time. And very important to get your opinion on what's been happening in terms of the market dynamics right now and how you're reading into it.
Well, the market is certainly in the correction phase, largely because of international events. FIIs are withdrawing, a trade war is sort of peaking out, and then you have tensions in the Middle East on oil tankers being attacked.
Does that worry you a lot?
That worries a lot. I mean, that's a very important source of oil for us. So therefore, that is very important. Then plus also North Korea, the settlement doesn't seem to be happening anytime, and there is again tension there. Brexit is in doldrums. So all these things are contributing to the general negative sort of vibes towards emerging markets, and that you can see over the last almost a week now. All emerging markets have been, they have been selling off. So I think that will probably continue for some time till some development, positive development comes out of any of these areas.
Does that discourage you from looking at equity markets from a fresh investment point of view?
You will certainly find opportunity sometime, and all these problems are likely to be solved. It's just a question of time frame, whether it's going to happen in 1 week or 3 months. I think these problems will be solved. So therefore, I think even the trade war cannot continue forever.
Yeah, well, it can't. The question is, are you taking heart from the levels that we are at, or would you reckon that there will be some resolution? Because yes, the markets look a lot to Trump's tweet timelines and then try and make a decision about what could happen. But if both sides are adamant about their voice being heard, then this may not reach a resolution in a hurry.
Well, I think, there's some ray of hope from what Trump said yesterday also, saying that,
He's been saying it for 2 months, Mr. Bhat, and still we're in the midst of a trade war.
So slapping duties. So I think it's just of who blinks first. I think, there'll be certainly some back channel negotiations going on. I think there'll be some resolution. But, this is not the best of times for emerging markets. So therefore, I think there'll be certainly some more uncertainty before it gets sorted out.
Okay, but the bigger question then, one is what's happening to the globe. Two is, if you just look around us, Mr. Bhat, auto sales numbers, and Sam asking for a tax cut, which means that the autos are under serious pressure. We've seen most consumption names either at best meet estimates and in most cases come off lower as well. So consumption, the last pillar of growth, so to say, is also under serious pressure right now. Is there a need to go out and make investments wherein there's a possibility, an outside chance of earnings actually coming off? Thus far, we've always been arguing about how we start off higher and go lower, but at least the estimates were higher. Now people might start assuming that earnings growth will come off materially in the first couple of quarters.
Quite possible. I think the new government has hands full. I'm sure they've got a lot to do. But I think, if you really see one ray of hope I saw was the capacity utilization being slightly higher. So that cannot happen if there is absolutely no offtake. So I think there are certainly some problems in the short term because of the NBFC crisis and stuff like that. But nothing that can really collapse the market. I think the market might get corrected. But I think there will certainly be some support at a certain level, especially May 23rd might be a ray of hope for the markets too.
And to pick up from Neeraj's question about consumption, while he said it's the last pillar of hope, quite contrary is actually the first stance that you take when you talk about economic growth, when you look at consumption and the pickup in consumption, that gives you an indicator that the economy is doing fine. Because you've got volume suffering now, and that is a big question mark. You've got unemployment, rural income is not matching up, and therefore spends are being withheld. And we're not talking about the big spends like cars, we're talking about normal bread and butter spends.
Yeah. Well, I think these problems are certainly there. There's no point of brushing it under the carpet. But I think these problems could be addressed. The government certainly seized the matter, and whoever forms the government on post 23rd, I think they will seize this opportunity and do whatever is required to buoy up the economy. And I think after quite some time we have a situation. It's basically the market is corrected because of FII outflows. In fact, even when there was uncertainty about the election outcome, I think the markets continued to. During last month, for example. But I think it's because of the FII outflows that things have sort of come to this pass. And of course, all said and done, given the earnings growth that we can foresee now, the markets are not exactly cheap. They continue to be reasonably expensive. So therefore, there is a scope for correction. But I think as far as the broad economy is concerned, I think the right steps will be taken, and I think we will see some hope, because actually NBFC crisis is having the second tier effects now, because basically almost all autos were financed either through NBFCs or banks, and the insurance where you had to have longer term insurance. All these things have affected the auto business, and I think it's just a matter of a couple of quarters. Things should be back.
I'm just wondering, sorry, but why are we so hopeful about this happening so soon, Mr. Bhat? The only reason I ask this is because if we had one of the government officials come yesterday or day before and tell PTI that the NBFC space, I mean, I don't remember it verbatim, but he seemed to suggest that they've bitten more than they can chew.
Correct.
And we are staring at an imminent crisis.
Yeah.
Maybe things can get worse before they get better.
Well, I think, this is speaking a bit too late, I think. I mean, this was a problem about a month ago or month and a half ago.
You think it's been resolved?
I think things are getting resolved. RBI is on top of the NBFC crisis. There are certainly some ALM mismatches, and I think the government, the RBI is addressing that. I think this has been spoken sort of out of turn, I think. I mean, he was probably a couple of months too late.
So, Mr. Bhat, now since you're saying that there are rays of hope and you should not shy away from investing in the equity markets even at this point, where do you see that ray of hope coming from?
Well, of course, I mean, if you see, the private sector banks have given a very good account of themselves. I mean, those who have the access to capital, those who manage the risk very well, I think they continue to be doing very well. And so therefore that is one area. And I think even autos, if you are a slightly longer term investor, I think there is certainly hope there. Autos cannot collapse just like that. It is just, I think, the NBFC one is after effects of NBFC. I think
but we still have the uncertainty of the BS6 norms kicking into play.
I think this year should be actually very good for them, because
it should be, but
BS6 everybody will start buying.
Yeah, but
stocking up.
But after the cost pressures will once again start to build in.
So that is
and
next
the
year.
Pricing.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're saying for the shorter term, this could
shorter term, I think things should start improving, because BS6 is such a big event, so that people will start buying well before that. And I think till these next 3 quarters, I think should be quite good for the auto companies. That will start showing up.
There's an auto editor, Mr. Bhat, and again, views could be different, but an auto editor who just put out his thought on how, while we have the frequent indicators of what's happening to NBFC-led correction, etc., is one thing. The desire of the millennials to not own autos could be a big structural shift, which might slow down growth rates by and large for autos. You don't quite subscribe to that?
Well, I think that's a long-term phenomenon, but given the state of public transport in this country,
it's the Uberization wave.
I think we are quite some time away from that. I mean, that could be the story for the next 2-3 decades, but not immediately. We have to put our public sort of transport in order, and we are a long way off from that.
Okay. What do you think happened in pharma, Mr. Bhat? Yesterday was a big talking point.
Yeah,
what's your view here? Anything that you gather?
Well, I think these, they're going from the frying pan to the fire. I mean, they were having problems with FDA, now they are having problems with price fixing and stuff like that. I think there are no quick fix solution for this, and I think this is some sector that will take some time to revive. They might have probably, they might be close to fixing the problems that they had earlier about the FDA and stuff like that. But now I think it's a bigger problem, and I think there'll be some price to pay here.
Valuations in favor?
I don't think the valuation is in favor if the bigger problem is so serious. So I think the price fixing is a very big issue. So therefore, if that doesn't get addressed, I think valuations are not very material.
I think defensives are getting contrary to their name now. I mean, be it consumption, be it pharma.
Safer IT, maybe.
Safer IT, yes. That's the only probably pocket that's true to its name of being a safer haven investment in a volatile market. Is that somewhere you'll put money?
Well, IT is, of course, is I think more than adequately priced. They have been doing reasonably well. I think steady performers. It has been very, very well recognized by the market, and they've been priced well. I don't know whether there is a huge upside there possible, but I think it's par for the course, as it were.
There was another market guest who spoke to us about at the rate or the pace at which we are seeing AI picking up, and how Indian IT players are attuned to capitalize on the market. I mean, China is way ahead of India with regards to that. But is this an area of big opportunity for Indian IT players to step up? And therefore, the growth potential and the earnings potential thereof could be of magnitude?
Absolutely. I mean, this is like what happened at the turn of the millennium. I think the big opportunity, and I think there will be the IT companies are certainly addressing that. But I don't know whether it's the top 3 or 4 IT companies who will capture this opportunity. There may be others, rank outsiders, who might be able to come and capture this opportunity. So therefore, I think there could be some sort of a disruption there, but I think that's the big opportunity. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Is there a contrarian idea, Mr. Bhat, that you feel could be taken heed of? I mean, the only contrarian play I hear of right now is telecom.
Telecom is a bit too early still, I think. I mean,
it's still a bit too
I think
early?
the disruption is still continuing. I mean, if you see the results the last few days, I think the disruption continues.
But FY20 is touted as the year that you'll actually see a turnaround in the telecom space.
The
Do
new
you agree?
incumbent has to say that, okay, thus far I know further I've gained enough market share and I'll start pricing rationally. I think till then there is no great hurry, I think. But the contrarian play, I would think that auto is a contrarian play. If you are a 3-year investor, I think that's where you should be.
Well, there is Ritam Desai, there is Mr. UR Bhat, 2 or 3 names which are talking about this in a big way for sure. Let's wait and watch if that comes
Ritam said that I think a month and a half ago, and after that we've seen...
Yeah, but I would reckon that maybe long-term calls don't get formed right at the... At
you
one
can't
level.
time it.
Yeah, you can't time it. I think that's well put. Mr. Bhat, the other pocket which has come out with some pretty interesting set of numbers this quarter around are the specialty chemical companies. Almost every company without exception is adding one key specialty to its business. Deepak Nitrite, Bharti Industries, Vinati Organics, and the margins are expanding meaningfully. Are valuations too expensive, or would you believe that there's a multi-year growth and therefore selectively one can look at these companies?
Yeah, certainly one can look at these companies. I mean, big companies, large cap companies there.
Yeah.
They're all mid and small
Even
cap
though they are
companies.
market leaders in certain...
Yeah, they're market leaders, but they're very small companies.
Small companies,
given the scheme of things. But I think there's certainly some, they have been doing very well. Expanding margins is a great sign during these times. And I think this is one of those pockets where the margins are expanding. And I think there's certainly, quite a lot of these have made some big investments for the last 5 years. And I think it's sort of paying off now. And I think that is one area which is very interesting, one should watch. Maybe you can pick and choose a couple of companies there.
Okay, Mr. Bhat, we have to wrap, but just one quick answer because you have such a good handle on banks. What have you made of what to do with the small size banks? So there's been chalk and cheese, IDFC First Bank, poor numbers, DCB,
Syndicate
Federal,
Bank,
etc. doing well, PSU
Karnataka Bank now down
mixed
6%.
set. What do you do here?
Well, I think most likely the worst is behind us now, because even if you see the PSU banks also have started bringing down their NPAs, and some of them have turned profitable. So they just need some capital, which I think the new government should really address that very seriously. If they get capital, I think, all these NBFC issues, and I think they are the natural sort of players who can take advantage of that. And I think this is the time for one to be bold and buy into these public sector banks with a 3-year call.
3 of you autos, 3 of you PSU banks as well, Mr. Bhat. It's been an interesting conversation today.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for joining in today.
My pleasure.
Look forward to speak to you around this election season as well.
Certainly. Interesting times.
Yeah, interesting
Thank
times.
You.